My name is Dan Weber. This is the speech I intended to give on Monday in support of the victims of the flood and the victims of the negligence and lack of response from the government. I was unable to because the demands of the community are so high that volunteers from across the state and country are still working 12 plus hours a day to provide assistance, while resources from the state, local, and federal levels linger and are not in the community. My name is Dan Weber. I fought with the 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, and served as a deputy sheriff in Hays County, Texas. Over the last 2 weeks, I have tried to conceptualize the devastation that has occurred to communities, both familiar and unheard to me. I've seen the aftermath of floods and of hurricanes, of fires and of pandemics. I've seen 500-pound bombs dropped and walked the craters in their wake. On the 4th of July, 2025, 500-pound bombs were dropped every 200 yards for 80 miles along the Guadalupe River. I was not a firefighter or a police officer in those first hours, sprinting down a roaring torrent just for the hope to grab one more hand to pull one more person from the waters. I was not awoken to the shifting and crashing of my home or the scream of people in or near my home. I did not experience the pain of those who had to spend days searching for their own loved ones. I did not fight extreme exhaustion like a convoy of volunteers who drove over 20 straight hours from North Carolina with horse trailers filled with what would become the first distribution center of supplies to an entire region. Over the last 3 weeks, I've worked with some of the most incredible, compassionate, and tireless people whom I have ever met. The strongest survivors I've ever encountered in a community, not just one town, but a community of hundreds of people pushing through limits which they didn't even know they had, just to help strangers. In a community of hundreds of people with the strength to accept help from strangers. The strength to put their trust in volunteers while in the most vulnerable times of their lives. So my story in this tragedy is simple. It is to relay to you the trauma that is incurred by the survivors of the flood and the re-traumatization that so many are going through on a daily basis, looking out of a damaged home to see piles of debris that used to be their life, sitting out for weeks on end, waiting for volunteers from Houston, San Antonio, Denver, Canada, Mexico, or Austin to come with their own vehicles, chainsaws, skid steers, and blood, waiting on volunteers because the state, the county, the country, and the cities never did. My story is to relay the stories of search and rescue forces from Florida and Alabama who commended the rescue efforts of the victims and the volunteers for their drive and heart to accomplish what they had done with no government resources, none. My story is to tell you that within an hour of being in Sandy Creek, without asking a soul about their experience, I had heard the stories of more than a dozen people, deeply in shock, yet still covered in mud, sweat, and open wounds from the night of the flood itself. I heard the stories of loss, of feeling, and of being abandoned. The stories of gratitude for those who came to help, following their own heart, and the stories of loss, of death, the stories of a night which forever changed thousands of lives, and the stories of the weeks that followed. Volunteers and nonprofits, but no Texas State Troopers, no FEMA, no county construction crews, no outside agencies coming to assist, not one iota of the statewide governmental unity which followed Hurricane Harvey. Bridges were left destroyed, humans left unhoused, missing and dead, and communities were left governed but not protected, policed but not heard, scolded but not cared for. The people of Texas and of America showed up, while the government of Texas and of America made football analogies and attacked those victims who demanded that responsibility be taken. My story is one of witnessing communities of love which exist in Sandy Creek, Killeen, Hunt, Centerpoint, San Saba, and so many others. Communities born in trauma and bonded through trust and compassion. Compassion means to suffer together. We are together, and we are suffering. We invite the government to suffer with us.